This is actually a simulation. I remember the day this epiphany hit me with the most visceral clarity, and it happened during a mushroom trip that felt so intense, so transformative, that I could barely grasp the breadth of it as it unfolded. One moment, I was in my living room, feeling the gentle warmth of the sunlight dancing across my face. The next, I was absolutely convinced that I'd slipped out of my body. I didn't feel tethered by gravity or the usual constraints of everyday life. Instead, it was as though some mysterious presence, a voice or an entity that I couldn't quite name, was guiding me through a cosmic lecture on the nature of reality. This guide conveyed one fundamental truth. Humans live in a simulation. Not a simulation like a computer game with clunky pixels and rigid rules, but a fluid, ever-shifting tapestry of experience that we collectively co-create. As soon as I received this message, everything inside me seemed to reverberate with an otherworldly energy, and I realized that we are all connected, that each of us is just a facet of the same underlying force, experiencing life from different angles. The revelation made me feel simultaneously minuscule and infinite, like a drop of water that is also the entire ocean. It was overwhelming, humbling, and strangely comforting. I recall that during this trip I was transported to a time so ancient that it defied logical comprehension. I saw myself existing in the era of the dinosaurs. Imagine that, being flung back millions upon millions of years to a world teeming with massive reptilian creatures, dense jungles, and a sky that seemed to stretch on forever. It felt like I was watching a movie, but not just any movie. It was a hyper-realistic, multi-dimensional documentary in which I was both viewer and participant. The colors were startlingly vibrant. Ferns glowed with an emerald intensity, and the sun had a slight golden shimmer that reminded me of stained glass. Every detail seemed magnified 1,000-fold. I could hear or perhaps feel the low rumble of giant creatures moving through the forest, their footsteps resonating through the earth, sending ripples of sensation up my spine. The perspective shifted rapidly, sometimes placing me in the vantage of an onlooker perched in the branches of an impossibly tall tree, other times setting me down on the ground at the feet of these towering beasts. I remember an overwhelming sense of awe and wonder, like I was witnessing my own primordial heritage. The trip insisted this was not merely a hallucination but a genuine recollection. I had actually lived in that ancient world, though in a form I could scarcely recognize. As the vision continued to evolve, I realized I was being granted a sweeping look at all the lives I'd ever lived. It was like sitting in a colossal theater, watching a marathon of my own existence. Life after life after life, each story flickering past me like the frames of a film reel. Except that the medium wasn't ordinary celluloid, but something far more ethereal. The strangest thing was the simultaneous sense of familiarity and forgetfulness. Some lives seemed to spark an instant recognition, as if I could say, yes, that was me, while others felt utterly alien, belonging to someone I had never consciously known. Yet, according to this otherworldly guide, all of them were undeniably mine. My roles in these narratives were wildly varied. I saw myself as a hunter in a land of ice and snow, as a mother in a tropical village, as a wandering mystic in a desert temple, and so many other incarnations that I lost count. The boundaries of my identity became hazy, stretching far beyond the person I know myself to be in this lifetime. It was like stepping into a vast library, each book on the shelf representing a different story I had lived, woven into the cosmic tapestry that makes up who I am. Even as I watched, I felt deeply moved and slightly mournful, aware that my conscious mind could not possibly retain all these experiences once the trip ended. Still, in that moment, I was submerged in the totality of what I had been, and by extension of what I truly am. Describing this experience is challenging because the core of it wasn't purely visual or auditory. It was deeply emotional, almost an all-encompassing sensation that transcended language. That feeling was immense, like standing on the brink of a vast canyon and sensing every gust of wind, every shift of sand, every echo. It was as if my entire being vibrated on the same frequency as the universe. This resonance revealed that my mother and father, as I've always known them, were not really my mom and dad in the ultimate sense. Instead, they were expressions of the same universal self that I am, a fractal extension of my own consciousness, temporarily manifesting in forms I recognized as parental figures. It was a jarring shift in perspective, because we spend our lives believing in the tangibility and separateness of our relationships. Yet, in this state, I was flooded with the knowledge that separation is an illusion. We come to Earth, or to this simulation, in multiple guises, weaving in and out of various roles to learn, to grow, to experience. Our mothers, fathers, siblings, friends, they might seem like distinct people, but at a higher level, we're all threads of the same divine tapestry. This realization made me feel both supremely grateful and slightly disoriented. It reframed my childhood, my adolescence, and my interactions with my parents in a completely different light. Were these relationships simply staged events that my deeper self orchestrated so I could learn the lessons necessary in this particular lifetime? The notion is almost too grand, too surreal. Yet it resonated as the truth in that heightened state of awareness. Another revelation from this mushroom journey was the concept that we can manipulate our reality. The guide or the voice made it known that we are not mere passive observers in this cosmic play. Instead, we are the directors, writers, and lead actors all rolled into one. We possess an immense capacity to shape the worlds we inhabit, because reality, as it was shown to me, is not a rigid construct, but more like pliable clay. Our beliefs, our thoughts, our intentions, they act like the sculptor's hands, molding the clay of our existence into forms that reflect our inner landscapes. However, this ability isn't always conscious. Most of us remain bound to pre-written scripts, cultural norms, family expectations, societal pressures, and never quite realize we can grab hold of the pen and write an entirely new story. During the trip, I felt like I was on the precipice of a monumental creative power. If I could stay in that space of heightened awareness, perhaps I could reconfigure my very destiny. It was an intoxicating possibility, yet it also came with a sense of responsibility and reverence. The voice cautioned me that the truest form of control doesn't come from ego-driven manipulation, but from aligning with the flow of the universal consciousness. In other words, we already shape reality by virtue of being alive and thinking, but to do so skillfully means understanding and embracing our interconnected nature. When I returned to ordinary consciousness after the trip, I felt a mix of awe, confusion, and an inexplicable calm. My everyday surroundings, the walls of my apartment, the furniture, the cars passing outside, looked the same, yet beneath the surface, I sensed a profound difference. It was as if invisible threads connected everything, forming a glimmering web that spanned not just my immediate environment, but the entire planet. Perhaps the entire cosmos. My body felt lighter, as if I'd shed layers of doubt and worry that I never realized I was carrying. Yet the practical question remained: how do I take these revelations and integrate them into my normal, day-to-day life? It was one thing to feel invincible and all-knowing in the throes of a psychedelic excursion, but quite another to put it into practice in a world where bills need paying, responsibilities loom, and relationships can be messy. Part of me wanted to reject the mundane altogether, to stand on a mountain and proclaim we're all in a simulation, that we can bend reality at will. But even as the afterglow lingered, the more grounded parts of my psyche knew I had to find a way to balance these cosmic truths with the tangible demands of human existence. Still, I carried that sense of unity in my heart, reminding myself when times got tough that I was not alone, that the universe was simply expressing itself through me, and vice versa. As time passed, I found that the details of the trip itself started to fade. The bright colors, the booming voices of dinosaur footsteps, the enthralling kaleidoscope of past lives, these receded like a dream upon waking. I tried journaling feverishly in the weeks afterward, desperately attempting to capture every brushstroke of the experience so it wouldn't slip away entirely. Even so, the intangible feeling of cosmic connectedness and the knowledge that we live in some grand simulation remained etched into my psyche. My relationships with people around me began to shift too, because it's hard to maintain old grudges or petty conflicts when you believe, at some fundamental level, that you and the other person are one consciousness wearing different masks. Arguments still happened, misunderstandings arose, but somewhere in the background was a gentle reminder, like a quiet whisper. You are the same being, experiencing itself. That subtle awareness changed the way I approached conflict, transforming adversaries into teachers, challenges into lessons. Moreover, the sense that I had lived in so many eras, some beyond what human history even remembers, reshaped my understanding of time. No longer did time feel strictly linear. It seemed more akin to a spiral or an ever-expanding fractal, where past, present, and future coexisted in ways my rational mind could only barely fathom mine. Some nights, when I lay in bed, I would close my eyes and visualize that dinosaur world in vivid detail, trying to conjure the raw intensity of the sun's heat and the primal roars echoing across ancient valleys. Other times I'd have spontaneous flashes of what felt like ancient memories, a fleeting sensation of wearing a robe on a desert night, or a sudden recollection of a far-flung city bathed in moonlight. Whether these impressions were actual past lives or symbolic glimpses courtesy of my own imagination no longer mattered as much to me. The important thing was the expanded context they provided for my existence, and the sense that the limits we ordinarily impose on ourselves, cultural, temporal, or otherwise, might be illusions we can transcend. One of the most memorable after-effects of the trip was the realization that fear of death had been, if not eliminated, at least massively reduced. Before, like many people, I had a fairly standard anxiety about the end of my physical existence. Now, having felt this cyclical dance of life, and having glimpsed the possibility that we've been at it for eons, dying and being reborn in countless forms, the finality of death didn't seem so menacing. It felt more like stepping through another doorway in a sprawling mansion. One passage among infinite possibilities. This shift in perspective brought a newfound sense of freedom. I found myself taking creative risks, speaking more boldly, and embracing a broader range of experiences without the paralyzing worry that I might fail or fall short. Failure, as it turned out, was just another lesson in a grand tapestry. Of course, the practical side of me still recognized that mortal life is precious, that we experience pain and tragedy, and that losing loved ones is heartbreaking. Yet even that heartbreak became tinged with a cosmic softness, a knowledge that the souls I mourn are not gone forever, but simply transitioning to another realm or expression of the same universal self. Looking back on my parents with this insight, I began to see them more as fellow travelers on this cosmic journey, rather than the sole architects of my existence. Sure, they played a fundamental role in shaping who I am in this life, but I realized that they, too, are expressions of the divine, exploring their own narratives. My closeness to them gained a deeper spiritual dimension, as if we were partners who chose to incarnate together so we could exchange wisdom and experience particular joys and challenges. It didn't cancel out normal human emotions. I could still become annoyed by their habits or worry about their health. But the undercurrent of unity made me more patient, more forgiving. I also recognize that the love I have for them is mirrored in the love I can cultivate for everyone else, because in essence, everyone is an extension of that same cosmic source. Even strangers I pass on the street, people I might normally never speak to, took on a sort of luminous significance, as if I could see them glowing with the same spiritual essence. Admittedly, the intensity of that awareness fluctuates. Some days I'm more tuned in than others. But once you see the illusion of separateness, you can't entirely unsee it. From the vantage point of this simulation concept, life's challenges start to feel more like carefully designed tests than random misfortunes. Perhaps we set up these hardships for ourselves, illness, heartbreak, failure, so that we can experience growth. After all, a simulation or a game with no obstacles would be boring, offering no incentive to evolve. This perspective helped me navigate difficulties that arose in the months after my trip. Financial worries, relationship bumps, even mundane frustrations like traffic jams took on a different hue. Instead of spiraling into negativity, I tried to look at each challenge as a clue in a puzzle. If I was stuck in traffic, maybe the universe was giving me extra moments to reflect or to observe my impatience. If I struggled financially, perhaps I was learning about resourcefulness and gratitude. That's not to say every ordeal magically became easy. Life still stung, but at least I had a framework that allowed me to mine difficulties for deeper meaning. Sometimes, it even sparked a wry smile when I imagined my higher self orchestrating these events, thinking, oh, this will be interesting for you to figure out. Enjoy. The notion that we can shape reality in any way we want has become a guiding principle in my day-to-day routine. When negativity arises, I remind myself that I hold the keys to my perception. Yes, there are collective agreements, societal norms, laws of physics, as far as we understand them. But within that matrix, there's ample room for individual creation. I experimented with simple visualization techniques, imagining positive outcomes and focusing my energy on gratitude and abundance. Over time, I did notice small shifts. Better luck with opportunities, warmer interactions with friends and strangers, a general sense of being more aligned with life's flow. Still, it's not like I turned into a sorcerer overnight. I can't levitate objects or conjure gold out of thin air, but my inner landscape changed, and that change manifested outward in ways that felt both subtle and profound. It's like tuning an instrument. Once you're in harmony with a higher frequency, the notes you play resonate more clearly. The ultimate lesson I gleaned is that we're co-creators with the universe. We shape the simulation from within, but we must also remain humble and attuned to the collective dance. In reflecting on that day, the day I was told that we all live in a simulation, I find it striking how seamlessly the revelation wove itself into my life afterward. At first, it was disorienting. The idea that everything is an illusion or a construct can make daily life feel surreal. You look around and think, is any of this real? But the more I integrated the insight, the more I realized that real might just be another category we invented to feel stable. If we define real as that which we perceive and react to, then yes, the simulation is real in every meaningful sense. If we define real as an absolute state that exists independent of perception, we might be talking about something else entirely, perhaps the underlying consciousness that orchestrates all these manifested experiences. Regardless, the simulation perspective has led me to appreciate the sacredness of the mundane. Preparing a meal, sharing a laugh with a friend, even doing laundry. These actions become little rituals within the grand cosmic game. Everything has a purpose, a reason for being, and everything is an expression of that same boundless intelligence playing hide and seek with itself. I found that sharing this experience with others can be tricky. Not everyone is prepared to hear, hey, we're in a simulation and we've lived countless lives. Some may find the idea absurd or dismiss it as drug-induced delirium. Others might be intrigued but skeptical. A few friends, especially those who have had similar experiences with psychedelic states or meditative practices, seem to resonate with my story. We'd spend hours discussing the nature of consciousness, the illusions of time, and the possibility of multiple dimensions. These conversations often sparked a surge of excitement in me, as if speaking about it reactivated a sliver of that peak state awareness. Yet I also learned to be discerning. Not everyone wants or needs to hear about the cosmic depths of existence, and that's okay. Each person has their own path, their own pace of awakening, or non-awakening, which is also part of the grand design. Sometimes the best way to share is simply to embody the insights, show kindness, practice compassion, and live in alignment with the deeper truths you've touched upon. One of the enduring lessons from my mushroom trip is that the line between teacher and student is blurred. My cosmic guide, whether it was an external entity or a manifestation of my higher self, wasn't just imparting information. It was reminding me of truths I'd already carried within. Everyone around us, from the barista at the coffee shop to the stranger on the bus, can be a teacher if we open ourselves to seeing it that way. Conversely, we're all teachers for those we meet. That old phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, took on fresh meaning. I started noticing how often I'd receive exactly the message I needed from random encounters, or how synchronistic events seemed to line up when I was in a state of receptivity. Before, I might have dismissed these coincidences as pure chance, but post-trip, they felt more like a cosmic wink, reminding me that this simulation is meticulously orchestrated to aid our growth. If there's one thing I'd emphasize from this entire experience, it's that words are always going to fall short. Language can hint at the nature of this revelation but can't fully encapsulate the visceral, multidimensional quality of what it's like to see yourself across numerous lifetimes, to sense that your parents are extensions of your own consciousness, and to feel the raw power of shaping reality from within reality. Nevertheless, the attempt to articulate it is important because it plants seeds. Maybe someone else will read these words, connect them with a memory or a feeling they've had, and realize they're not alone in questioning the solidity of the world around them. Maybe it'll inspire someone to look within, to try meditation, or to explore alternative states of consciousness. The potential ripple effects of sharing are worth the inherent limitations of language. Even though I know the trip's revelations might be perceived as unprovable, they've had a lasting impact on my life and outlook. My sense of purpose broadened. I'm not just here to get a job, pay bills, and eventually retire. I'm here to contribute my unique strand of consciousness to the unfolding tapestry, to learn lessons I've chosen for this round, to heal old wounds, maybe inherited from my past lives, and to create something beautiful and meaningful in the process. That purpose might manifest in small acts of kindness or large-scale projects. Both are equally valuable in a simulation where everything is interlinked. The idea that we've been doing this for a long, long time suggests that life is not a single sprint to the finish line, but more like an elaborate dance that stretches across epochs, galaxies, and realms we can barely imagine. Each step in this dance, each new life and relationship, adds a layer to our collective understanding. Occasionally, I wonder if I'll have another experience like that, one that reaffirms these truths with the same intensity. Part of me craves another direct glimpse of the machinery behind the curtain, but another part of me acknowledges that living in this ordinary reality, while retaining the memory of that extraordinary knowledge, might be the true challenge. After all, It's easy to feel enlightened when cosmic visions are swirling around you. The real test is maintaining that insight when you're stuck in a grocery line or dealing with a stubborn coworker. Maybe that's where the greatest magic lies, in integrating the cosmic with the everyday. In those quieter moments when the hustle of life slows down, I sometimes revisit the spiritual echoes that the mushroom trip left behind. I let my mind wander back to prehistoric jungles, letting the feeling of ancient power wash over me. I imagine the scenes of all my supposed lifetimes playing like an avant-garde film in the cosmic theater. I reflect on the idea that, behind each familiar face I encounter, there dwells a spark from the same eternal flame that burns within me. These reflections infuse me with a gentle sense of unity and gratitude. I'm grateful to be here, playing out another chapter in this infinite story. I'm grateful that life, whether it's a simulation, a school, or a dream, offers such a range of beauty and heartbreak and wonder. The extremes are part of the package. They make life the dynamic, living piece of art that it is. If you ask me directly, so, do you believe we live in a simulation? My answer might surprise you. I'd say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we exist within a vast, intricately designed framework that we collectively shape, a dreamlike construct that is both real and unreal. No, in the sense that the simulation is not separate from the underlying consciousness that dreamed it into being. It's all one continuous field of energy and awareness. Calling it a simulation is a convenient handle, a metaphor that helps us grasp the complexity, but it's not the full story. The full story is too enormous to compress into words, an ever-expanding cosmic dance that none of us, in our limited human form, can fully comprehend. Yet we feel it in those transcendent moments, those fleeting glimpses when the veil lifts and we remember that we have been, and always will be, everything and everyone. In the end, the mushroom trip served as a potent catalyst, pushing me to question the structure of my reality, the continuity of my consciousness, and the reasons behind existence itself. It reaffirmed that the boundaries we assume are absolute might just be flexible illusions, that we can manipulate and reshape our world from the inside out, and that we're all intimately, inextricably connected. Each day, I try to honor that connection in small ways, by extending compassion, by creating beauty, by striving to remain curious. The knowledge that we are one consciousness, experiencing itself in myriad forms, breathes a sense of sacredness into even the simplest interactions. It's a perpetual reminder that whether I'm gazing at a prehistoric landscape or talking to my neighbor over the fence, I'm engaging with another facet of the grand tapestry that I, myself, am part of. And that is a truth far more enduring than any fleeting psychedelic vision. So, here we are, back in the humdrum swirl of daily life, and yet something of that cosmic vision persists. The simulation perspective acts like a filter through which I see the world, a magical lens that illuminates the hidden unity beneath the apparent chaos. I don't claim to have all the answers, and I'm not sure any of us ever will. At least not on this plane. But I do know that the trip changed me, gently and irrevocably. Perhaps that was the entire point, to plant a seed of wonder, a seed that would sprout into curiosity and compassion over time. The rest of the journey, however many lifetimes it takes, is about learning how best to nurture that seed, how to let it grow into a tree that shelters and inspires others who may be questioning their own place in this sprawling cosmic stage. If that's the purpose, then I consider myself blessed to play a role in it. Grateful for every strange, beautiful, perplexing, and enlightening step along the way. And when I feel lost or uncertain, I remind myself, this is actually a simulation. Or maybe it's real. Maybe it's both. Whatever the case, I'm here and I'm an integral part of it, just like you.